the relationship with your parents is never really good. I have a sentence here on the PDF that says that they used to hide the hammers around the house.
Yes.
So it would stop smashing your face.
Yep.
You did bone smash as a youth.
Yes.
That's not like a joke. You actually took a hammer to your face to shape your jawbone.
Yeah, well, it's all on YouTube.
Did it work?
Yeah.
Doctors have already documented a case of someone going blind from this. Not exaggeration, an actual reported case. A fracture behind the eye caused by hitting your own face with a hammer. That's the trend the internet's most famous Looksmaxxer built an entire following, selling as a shortcut to dominance. Meanwhile, the man who built an empire on the promise of being completely untouchable is currently sitting through federal court appearances he can't talk his way out of. Both of these guys sell the same core idea, that you can engineer your way past the rules everyone else has to live by. In this one, we're breaking down the one thing neither Andrew Tate nor Clavicular can actually escape, no matter how hard they sell the opposite. If you're into breakdowns like this, go ahead and subscribe, because this one gets uncomfortable fast.
Did your parents really have to hide the hammers around the house?
They did. That was not a joke.
How many hammers were there?
I would say they probably did it like 3 or 4 times. So I had to switch to this baseball trophy, which is a pretty famous prop. I've still been looking for it because everyone's been wanting me to find that souvenir. I don't know if you guys have seen, but yeah, no, so I had to switch to a different tool. And that was like the common theme growing up, is like my parents would always try to stop me from doing things, and I would always become vindicated every single time I would decide to go down a course of action.
Clavicular's entire brand runs on one promise, that jawlines and bone structure aren't fixed. They're something you can sculpt through sheer willpower, extreme fasting, and repeated blunt force to your own face. He's talked about it himself on camera, describing hitting his own face with hammers as a teenager to try to change its shape. He's become the actual face doctors point to when they talk about this trend, and it's not a compliment. A board-certified oral and maxillofacial surgeon put it plainly. Bones can remodel under sustained pressure over time. That part of the theory isn't made up. What's made up is applying that to repeated impact trauma. Doctors describing the real outcomes list displaced fractures, permanent nerve damage, orbital blowouts, and in some cases, lasting facial paralysis. One surgeon in New York specifically posted publicly this year just to discourage people from trying it, after watching his own patients show up with damage that required actual reconstructive surgery to fix. No amount of self-belief changes what a fracture does to a nerve. That's the pattern running through this entire story. The claim is always transcendence, beating biology, beating the system, beating everyone else's limits. The reality underneath it never actually moves.
Whoever it is that oversees his lab tests, I guess, at the time, sent him a 2-year-old test that showed he had a total testosterone level of 648 nanograms per deciliter, and then a free test that was disproportionately high at 43.55, if I'm reading that correctly, picograms per milliliter, which is significantly higher than the reference range goes. Notably, this is a Bucharest blood test and was missing, all the context you would need to prove you were natural. Essentially, if anything, this blood test result kind of suggested the opposite.
Tate's version of this same trap runs through physical dominance instead of facial structure. He's called himself a genetic specimen, sworn before God he's never touched a steroid, offered to take any test to prove it. He actually did take one, and the results didn't land the way you'd expect from someone selling peak biological perfection. No anabolic steroids showed up. So on that specific point, he's telling the truth. But the same blood work flagged high LDL cholesterol, persistently elevated blood pressure, and signs of systemic inflammation. That's not the profile of an untouchable specimen. That's a fairly ordinary set of warning signs a doctor would flag for anyone walking into a checkup. You can train as hard as you want, eat once a day like he claims to, and still not get to opt out of what your own arteries are doing.
They did the biopsy, and they said, yeah, it's benign. Some lesion I might have had from when I had pneumonia when I was a kid or something. It's benign. That's what I told you. I knew that cancer wasn't my life path. I knew it wasn't. But obviously rumors spread like wildfire.
It's not the only health scare either. Back in 2023, while detained in Romania, doctors found a dark spot on his lung during a scan, serious enough that his own medical team requested he be released to get further testing in Dubai. It turned out to be a scar rather than a tumor, and Tate himself pushed back hard on the framing, insisting he has an 8-liter lung capacity and the vital signs of an Olympic athlete. Fair Fair enough, it wasn't cancer, but the scare itself still happened to him the same way it happens to anyone else. An unexpected scan result, a required follow-up, a stretch of genuinely not knowing. Peak physical dominance didn't buy him a way around that moment. It just meant more people were watching him go through it.
Mr. Tate, would you mind signing?
Hey, take.
Come over here by me. Let's go. Come over here by me.
Back up. Back up. Back up. Guys, back up.
That same pattern shows up in the legal side of his story too. Tate's framed his entire legal situation as persecution, a system trying to silence him specifically because he's dangerous to it. But the actual paperwork tells a more ordinary story. Dozens of new UK charges, an unresolved Romanian case still requiring monthly court appearances, a US extradition fight, civil suits from multiple women appearing handcuffed and shackled in federal court like anyone else facing serious charges would.
Tate brothers will remain in Miami's federal detention center for at least another week. Andrew and Tristan Tate appeared in court yesterday, handcuffed and shackled. The social media influencers were arrested over the weekend on rape and sex trafficking charges. It's in a case out of the UK. They both deny the allegations and are fighting extradition. Their lawyers say they are the victims of a stitch-up job.
There's no question about it. These guys went to D.C. to exercise their First Amendment rights. They met with members of Congress as private citizens. They met with friends in Washington, D.C. They walked the grounds of the Capitol, and 3 days later, they're in the jumpsuit. You do the math.
Proving political persecution is key to the defense. Their lawyer says the case has a lot to do with the former British Prime Minister's decision to step down. A treaty between the U.S. and UK requires extradition with a few exceptions. One of those is for a political offense.
Being loud about believing you're above a system doesn't make the system stop applying to you. It just means you experience it publicly instead of quietly. He's currently sitting in federal detention while lawyers argue about extradition, which is a strange place to end up for someone who spent years insisting he's untouchable.
You're under citizen arrest. You're under citizen arrest.
Clavicular's version plays out the same way on a smaller scale, getting wrestled to the ground and headlocked by nightclub security, briefly sitting in the back of a patrol SUV, framing his string of controversies as political persecution rather than the direct result of his own behavior. Neither of these guys is actually untouchable. They're just documenting their own consequences in real time and calling it something else. Add it all up, and the pattern is identical across both of them. Biology doesn't care how hard you train or how many times you hit your own jaw with a hammer. The legal system doesn't care how loudly you call it persecution. And the algorithm that made both of them famous is the same one, quietly deciding how far they have to keep going just to stay relevant. Neither one built an escape from the rules everyone else lives by. They just built a very visible, very public collision with them. Drop a comment on which wall you think catches up with them first, and subscribe so you catch the next breakdown before it happens.